Good morning for teleSUR. I'm Cody Weddle in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin in Ukraine, where the ceasefire is largely holding on Tuesday despite both sides trading accusations of occasional shelling. As Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko visited the eastern city of Mariupol, he announced that pro-Russian rebels have released 1,200 prisoners. Prison swaps are part of the agreed peace process. Meanwhile, the European Union on Monday adopted new sanctions against Russia over its alleged involvement in the Ukraine war. The EU delayed enforcement of those measures, leaving time to see if the ceasefire will hold. The United States and Ukraine began naval exercises on Monday in the southwestern Ukrainian port of Odessa. Various other NATO powers are part of the drills in the strategic area. A total of 12 warships as well as planes and helicopters will participate. This is the 17th U.S. military exercise held this year in the Black Sea. NATO has had a permanent presence there since spring. The Dutch Safety Board says that the Malaysian airliner which crashed in Ukraine had no technical problems. In a preliminary report, the board reveals that the aircraft was hit by a large number of high-energy objects. The crash killed nearly 300 people. Two-thirds of the victims were from the Netherlands. The Ukrainian government and the rebels both traded blame for the incident. And to Chile now, where the country remains shaken after a bomb exploded at an underground station in the capital of Santiago on Monday, wounding at least 10 people. The government says the incident bears the signs of a terrorist attack. Chilean President Michelle Bachelet calls the act abominable, but also urges Chileans to remain calm.
I want to call for calm. What happened today was horrible, extremely reprehensible, but Chile will continue to be a safe country. And as the government, we're going to work with all the institutions so that everyone living in the country knows that we are working to protect them.
Farmers marched Monday near Mexico City, protesting government plans to build an airport and an urban development project on community lands. They say officials have illegally changed land titles to do so. Our correspondent Clayton Kahn has more on those claims.
Farmers from the small town of Tenco, Mexico, march in the streets of Mexico City rejecting renewed government plans to build a 6-runway international airport in the neighboring municipality of Texcoco.
Now we won't have space to cultivate our fields. What will we do? They shouldn't affect us. They should leave us in peace. Our town is quiet.
While authorities affirm that construction will take place on federal lands, adjacent to the capital's current airport, community members say initial work has already begun on their territory.
With their words, their mouths, they're saying they won't touch the land in Atenco. However, in reality, they already are.
In June, local officials held an assembly to change land titles from communal to private. Although lawyers call the move illegal, they say it is a pseudo-legal strategy to dispossess farmers from their land.
The social relevance that changing land from social to private property can have would practically be a dispossession, eviction of original peoples and farmers from lands they've lived on for a long time.
After civil protests in 2001, community members were able to halt federal plans to expropriate their territory for a similar project. It is not just the airport that the government plans to build on these lands, but also a large-scale urban development project that the people of the quiet town of Atenco fear will not only consume their lands, but also their way of life. Clayton Kahn, teleSUR, Atenco, Mexico.
And thanks to Clayton. To Uruguay now, where the latest poll ahead of the October presidential election shows a strong lead for the governing left-wing Broad Front Party, currently led by Pepe Mujica. The poll gives candidate Tabaré Vázquez 42% of the vote. That's a 10% lead ahead of the National Party's Luis Lacalle Pou with 32%. The right-wing Colorado Party garnered 15% of support in the poll. The figures suggest the presidential race will likely head to a second-round runoff. The government of Cuba will present its annual report on the economic impact of the U.S. blockade against it on Tuesday. The blockade is the most enduring blockade in history. Cuba estimates it has led to $1 trillion in losses over the past 50 years. U.S. President Barack Obama extended the blockade for another year this weekend. The UN will vote on the issue next month. Last year, 188 nations called for the blockade to be lifted, with only Israel voting in favor of its continuation. Syrian government forces attacked Islamic State targets on Monday, killing several militants. The government struck positions of the al-Qaeda offshoot al-Nusra near Damascus. The U.S. is considering military strikes in Syria against the Islamic State, but it has rejected offers of cooperation from the Syrian government. UN special envoys to Syria are scheduled to visit Damascus on Tuesday to seek a settlement of the conflict, which has claimed over 190,000 lives. Israeli occupation forces attacked a funeral procession on Monday. It was a service for a Palestinian boy who was shot by Israeli troops in East Jerusalem. Medics say 30 Palestinians were injured. The Israeli army has detained hundreds of Palestinians in recent weeks in violent crackdowns on the biggest protests since 2005. In the West Bank, Israeli soldiers went as far as detaining Palestinian boys as young as 7 and 12 years old. A UN report out Tuesday shows the year 2013 witnessed the highest increase in CO2 levels in nearly 3 decades. It's the latest report focusing on the mounting problem of climate change. A separate new study by Cornell University and the U.S. Geological Survey shows a 80 to 90% chance of a decade-long drought for the southwestern United States. There's a 20 to 30% chance of a mega drought that could last up to 30 years. The U.S. Southwest is already experiencing an exceptional drought, which will cost over $2 billion for the California economy alone. And we end this morning on a cultural note. The grandchildren of U.S. writer Ernest Hemingway visit Cuba to commemorate the 60th anniversary of him receiving the Nobel Prize for Literature. Hemingway moved to Cuba in 1939, the year before For Whom the Bell Tolls was published. He also wrote The Old Man and the Sea, A Movable Feast, and Islands in the Stream while there. His grandchildren visited the Hemingway International Marina in Havana on Monday and called for an improvement in U.S.-Cuba relations. Plenty more on those stories and others at our website, telesurtv.net/English. For teleSUR English, I'm Cody Weddle. Have a great day. We have the latest headlines again midday.